John Bowden, fabulous to meet you. John, ATEC Engineering Solutions, let's kick off. What is it that you guys do over there?
Okay, yeah, nice to meet you. ATEC Engineering Solutions, so we design and manufacture complex control systems for safety critical environments. So we work primarily in the defence industry, in land, sea and air applications. We also work in the industrial sector as well, so nuclear and oil and gas, covering both electrical and mechanical products.
Yeah, and historically, how sort of stable have those industries been? I know military, we only need to look at the news to suggest and maybe get a hint that this is a wave effect that then affects anything in defence. But yeah, is it fairly stable across both sectors?
Yeah, I mean it's a long term. Both sides are long term industries, so they're quite difficult to get into. The barriers to entry are high, but once you're in them, they tend to be pretty long term. Depending on where you are in the life cycle, so the front end of building new products is pretty regular stuff. We do a lot of aftermarket support, which is slightly more volatile. Things break when they want to break, so they're kind of hard to predict and forecast what's going to come in. But the one thing that is there is an ongoing need for products and an ongoing need for support, which is good for a business.
Now, I've always been fascinated with any industry that works with minimum downtime for clients, and I can imagine that some of yours, when they say minimum downtime, it means it can't really break, but if it does, it needs to be fixed immediately. How does that sort of pressure, if you like, transfer to you guys? Do you have to be expecting the unexpected? How do you plan for those calls and those messages that say we need immediate help?
Yeah, I mean, we structure ourselves in a way that means we've got people on call, which is one step of the process. What's probably more difficult is having parts around us for those unknown eventualities. So we have to source strategically. So we buy ahead of using data from the past to buy forward. We try to surround ourselves with the kinds of people who are quick to respond and know their place and their products really, really well. And it does vary industry to industry. Some are on aircraft on ground, for instance, where they need a response really super quick time. Oil and gas and nuclear are pretty similar. They're running facilities that mean that when they stop, red lights go off and people rush around, and we have to rush around with them.
I guess as the business has gone on and developed over the years, I guess that gets easier, does it? That you kind of get a feel for what you need to keep an extra eye on, as opposed to, obviously you've got an eye on everything, but that extra keen eye on certain areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still get caught out, of course, like any business. There's always that one part you don't have, and there's always that one person who's on holiday. We're only we're an SME manufacturer. We're only 40 people, so there's only so much ground we can cover. But I think we cover that really, really well, and like you say, experience definitely helps us in that.
Now, I think as any industry, or pretty much any industry that I know of, relies on great people, but I would imagine, again, for the sort of work you're doing, very, very specialist and very, very, especially dealing with certain legacy products and legacy systems. There's a lot going on in here with your team, is there, to keep everything running?
There definitely is, and we've things go in cycles, so we've got a lot of long-standing employees. So we've got people who've been with the business up to, in fact, more than 50 years. So we've got people who've been in the business for really lengthy periods of time, and then we've got apprentices coming in at the other end, and everything in between. And it's keeping the skill levels high. So we train our apprentices still on a 5-year apprenticeship. So I know industry's moving to 2- and 3-year apprenticeships, but it doesn't really suit us. So we tend to train them to probably a higher level than most, and we surround them with really good mentors, which means there's one thing you can't do. You can't download the human brain yet, and there's some great knowledge in some people's heads, and the only way of getting that out is spending time with them.
Do you find some people are more reluctant to share that data?
They can be. What we find is with most of our staff started life as an apprentice. And what we find is that they're really willing to share anything with apprentices because they see them as the younger self, and so they're the sponge who take all this great information in. When you get skilled people joining skilled people, you sometimes get a little bit more of people protecting their jobs. I want to know a little bit more than the next person, perhaps. But yeah, we have a really good training program that means that most of the stuff's documented. So we try to leave as little in people's heads as possible and get it written down into documentation.
John, question for you. Which is most important? And it's kind of deliberately to get a reactions, but do you think your staff come first or do your customers come first?
For me, I think the staff come first because they look after the customers. I think that's the way we try to run our business. We do put customers very front and centre, however, and what we try to do is put the right people here in front of those customers. So I think we've got a culture of looking after our customers, and then it's a case of having the right people in the business to deliver on that.
Yeah, because I think you can't have one without the other. You can't have delighted customers if all your staff are disgruntled, and equally, if your staff are all happy and fulfilled, that's going to pass on to your clients, isn't it?
It definitely transfers for sure.
Yeah, and in your industry, do you find, and you alluded to it early on, that I suppose the biggest challenge is getting clients? But once you've got them, do you find that once they've found that they can trust you, you don't let them down? That downtime is forefront. That they stay with you, or are you constantly having to keep an eye on it and keep reviewing?
It's definitely the former. It's long-term relationships, so they take a long time to get. It takes us a long time to generate new customers. There's a kind of a lengthy courting process where you're right. It's about building trust. So we sell them what we do, but they need to kind of build confidence that we can do what we say we're going to do. But they need to do that without actually placing orders, because that's they then become a customer. So it's that building, and I think what we try to do is we're really, really open and honest with them. And I think once that proves to be, they understand and they trust that open and honesty, then you start to build. Then I think you have some common values, and the common values builds into the relationship, which ultimately just adds strength to that relationship, because they understand as well that these are long term.
As a business, what sort of do you use any of the traditional marketing tools out there? Or do you guys have to approach it slightly differently? I know obviously you've got a beautiful website, and there's lots of facts and information on there, and a video. Well done. You get extra points for that. But some industries cannot live without Facebook and Instagram and traditional marketing. How do you guys do it? How do you attract and then start those conversations with clients?
One of the big shifts we made at the start of the pandemic was moving to video. So I think we knew probably 2 years earlier that kind of traditional collateral of data sheets and line cards and was we were going to exhibitions and people don't want to take them. We'd turn up with 2,000 flyers and go home with 1,800 of them, and the rest of the people just said, send me it on an email, send me it. So we knew that was shifting. And we were trying to cater for almost two markets, which was some people are still quite traditional, want to pick the data sheet up, but engaging in video, the sort of 2-3 minute video that we produced on the business gives more information than I could give in probably half an hour of talking about the business. The engagement was different. During COVID, it was our primary introduction to businesses. We'd send an email with the video, and rather than them have to read through, hundreds of lines of text on a data card and try and decipher what was interesting to them, there was a bit more emotion in the video. So therefore, people kind of said, "Oh right, I understand what these guys are about. I'll talk to them more. I'll find out where we fit." It's definitely been one of the best investments we made.
Yeah, and I've got just a couple more questions, but one about your journey really, because you started off obviously in engineering and then around sales for the business, but then transitioned to managing director. And I've got a few friends and clients who've gone through this similar journey. How difficult was that, and how much did you have to to change? And you've got a not an insignificant team and an insignificant business, so you've got to get it right. So what was that journey like for you?
I mean, the journey continues, doesn't it? I'm 2 years in, just approaching being the MD. I was previously technical director, so you're right, my background was engineering. I kind of found myself in sales really in that I've always worked in the military, sort of defence sector. Engineers tend to be the salespeople. Didn't realise that, but I found myself being an engineer going out talking to customers and technically selling. Not that I recognised it as selling, but providing solutions, and that's what works. So I've naturally found myself evolving into sales, and that's just got me into some different parts of the business. So I think what I've found that I love, looking after people, protecting people. That's kind of where my purpose is. That's my sort of values, and so the MD role was a sort of a no-brainer. Really, it was where I needed to be to fulfil myself. But yeah, you're right. In terms of responsibilities, that's been a big change. Obviously, making sure I've got the right team around me, and I'm just kind of working on that, making myself almost surplus now, which is so I can step back and work a bit more on the business than in it, and start to look forward a little bit further. Stop being sort of tactical in the business. So it's I think the biggest thing for me is I'm now aware of a lot less, which is uncomfortable, to be honest. I as tech director, I used to know.
That's a knowing nod. That's a knowing
Yeah.
nod.
I used to know everything that was going on down to nuts and bolt parts, and I kind of prided myself on the detail, and now I know less of it because I've got other good people worrying about that, and I'm worrying about maybe the bigger picture stuff. So I guess in the first few months that was slightly uncomfortable. Physically moving the office away from the main office, so I'm only 30 yards away, but 30 yards of not hearing what's going on is was just a transition I needed to make, and really happy I've done it though.
How have you, the engineering side and things you think you can teach, but who's taught you how to be a managing director?
I think a lot comes just from your own experience. So having good people along the way. So I've had a number of good role models, kind of over the 3 businesses I've worked under, and I think they've all taught me something. So some of them have taught me about attention to detail. Some have taught me about the need to do the right thing. Some have taught me about kind of work ethics. And then obviously while I've been at ATEC, Andrea Hoff was the previous owner and managing director, and she taught me obviously about the business and its kind of inner workings, and maybe a little bit more of its history, which history does play a part in the current as well. So and I think you kind of take all those things and then you make it your own flavour, I guess, which is we're all our own people, we have our own skills and our own things that we're strong at. What I guess I've learned during the transition is the areas where I'm maybe not as strong, and that's fine, and they're also the areas that I don't want to be as strong, is making sure that I've got very good people in those areas to challenge me, hold me accountable, to just give me that security of knowing that part of the business is being looked after.
If you were having to do that elevator pitch, you've got 30 seconds in a lift with someone that says, John, I've had a brilliant idea and I'm going to set up a business. What should I do? What should I not do? And the time sort of starts. What would your nugget be for them?
I think first and foremost you've got to find what you love. So I think what I call my purpose. So find what your purpose is. If you really love it, you're probably on the right track. Surround yourself with good people. Be vulnerable. So take a few risks, but feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is a good thing. And I think if you're surrounded by good people and you're willing to be vulnerable, I think the rest sort of drops into place. There'll be challenges along the way that you'll need to ride, but as long as you've got that purpose and that love for whatever you do, I think you kind of just you smash through those challenges. They're not so big.
Wonderful. Great. It's been really enjoyed chatting to you, John. Thank you so much for giving up your valuable time, and I hope you and the team have a fantastic year.
Yeah, and you. Brilliant.
All right. Take care.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys. Cheers.